Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, in the spirit of living with the times, we're going to descend into one of my favorite, I know it's many people's favorite, but one of my favorite pieces of Torah, of revelation that come out from the writings of Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, from the world of Rebbe Nachman. And it's the Maisa Mehindik, it's the story of the Turkey Prince, the story of a turkey. It's a story of a struggle for identity, a grappling with the loss of identity, a coming to terms with self, a process of learning how to help others, how to help ourselves, how to make room for imagination, how to find all rightness in a world that is a bit not all right, how to learn how to be okay within the framing of not being okay, finding the yichud underneath the table, not the yichud ilah, but finding HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the yichud tata, in the lower revelation when we find ourselves at the bottom. And most importantly, it's a story of healing. It's a story of deep healing, because ultimately it's a story that reveals that nothing was broken to begin with. There's a healing that takes shape by fixing something that is broken. Then there's a healing that takes shape by way of revealing to the individual that within the very thing that appears to be broken is in truth the very site of strength. And this is the Torah of the tzaddikim who speak about the Torah underneath the table, of what happens in a loss of identity, in the breakdown of self, in that post-traumatic space, in that loss of language, in that folding in upon the self to try and find meaning and to try and validate meaning, and grappling with questions of the truth and the value of meaning, the ground of certainty that each and every one of us is searching for within the free fall of skepticism and doubt within our own personal subjective experiences in this world. And it's the story of the light of the tzaddikim, the light of the tzaddik that comes down to illuminate beneath the table, to teach us how to be okay with ourselves, to teach us how to slowly but surely come to terms with ourselves, and come to realize that the things that we feel are so broken are in truth the very site in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets the most nachas ruach from us, and a process of how to come to terms, how to educate ourselves and others to come to terms with character defects, deficiencies, things that need to be fixed, that can't be fixed yet. Learning how to slowly but surely lean into the process of healthy developmental healing rather than the desire to shift or to make or to build or to identify, but to learn to be okay with what is. And we're going to read the words of Rebbe Nachman, and I'm going to interject, trying to make sure that the thematics of the story continue. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of thought. Everybody has their own interpretation because each and every person is the turkey prince underneath the table. But ultimately, in the spirit of the times, we're going to talk about turkeys. We're going to talk about what it means to be a turkey. Now, I don't have an understanding as to why it's a turkey, why the turkey represents the poultry that's used, that the king's son identified himself with. And we're going to see there's ramazim in the word hindik, most certainly, the word used to describe the turkey. But I asked my Rebbe, Rav Moshe Weinberger Shlita, why he thinks that this question of identity and placement and status and belonging and non-belonging and the difference between at the table and underneath the table that plagues each and every one of us in our own ego-centered consciousness. And the insight that Rav Weinberger offered was that he's not certain, but the turkey represented the confrontation with a certain moment of modernity where due to the developments of modern technologies, we were able to access more and find more access to places that were not available beforehand. And through the process of trade, so turkey became a poultry that Jewish communities were eating, in spite of the fact that it was not a poultry that was contained within the previous understanding of kashrus of birds. As is known, there was a great controversy with regards to the kashrus of the turkey, and that there's still a minhag amongst certain sects of Talmidei Hashla and Bnei Hashla that I've heard or I understand that don't eat turkey for particular reasons in accordance with this sugya. But ultimately, the turkey represents the confrontation with something new coming and invading the old order, and the questions that emerge in terms of how do we make space? Does the old order open up for that which is new? Does the new open up for that which is old? And ultimately, it's the question of the belonging at the table and underneath the table at the same time. So the turkey prince represents the disorientation that takes place when a person comes to consciousness and they realize that my previous way of looking at myself is no longer working for me and I have to start looking at myself differently. And that's the question that Rebbe Nachman is coming to address. So let's read the words And we'll see Be'ezras Hashem through Diyukim what's taking shape here. The general framework of the story is that there was a prince who lost his mind, fell into a certain madness, and conceived of himself as a turkey, cast off his clothes, cast off his human tendencies, and acted like a turkey underneath the table. And the king and his family were so desperate to heal their son, to heal the prince, to help him remember that he was truly a prince and not a turkey, to help him remember that his place was at the table and not underneath the table, to convince him that his ways were wrong, and how all of it was failed attempts at indoctrination and education and psychological intervention until the king found the Chacham, until the king found the secret of the Tzaddik, and the Tzaddik understood the deep secret of helping this Turkey prince heal, which was ultimately a process of helping the Turkey prince come to terms with the incongruity of it all. Not trying to make him something that he wasn't, but allowing him to remain a turkey, yet teaching him that a turkey can continue to do things. Meaning to say that instead of everybody else who was trying to change the prince who thought he was a turkey back into a prince so that he would stop being a turkey and come back and sit at the table, the Chacham comes and says, "You're a turkey. Of course you're a turkey." But nobody said a turkey can't wear clothing, and nobody said a turkey can't eat human food, and nobody said a turkey can't sit at the table. And that's how the turkey comes out from under the table. It doesn't stop being a turkey. It lives in its own shigayon. It lives in its own madness. It lives in its own dimyon. It lives in its own imaginative wanderings and the cultivation of a delicate faith that enables us to face another moment. But it's sitting at the table because why not? It's Purim. I'm a turkey. I'm dressed as a human being. Why not? I'm pretending. That's fine. I don't have to be absolutely authentic. I could still be a turkey and sit at the table and do the things even though I still feel like a turkey. And that's how the prince is saved. By reminding the prince that there's nothing you could do that would take you away from being a prince. So even when you're a turkey, you're a prince. Mamela, so be a turkey, but be a prince when you're a turkey. You don't know anything, so pretend that you're a prince. And we're going to see how this process of giving room and making space for the shigaon, making space for the issue, not deferring the issue, not dispelling it, not pushing it away, but rather joining, empathically joining the person's imagination, our own imaginations, and meeting ourselves where we're at, in our own inauthenticity, in our own low lishmakite, in our own meanderings and the various reasonings that are behind what we do and how we do it. And instead of disregarding or devaluing or judging or being shameful in the face of our impure deeds, because there's a certain element of human desire and the kina, taiva, and kavod that motivates so much, instead of throwing everything out as a result of feeling that I'm still just a turkey, validating it, finding that there's a lishma, there's an authenticity at the heart of the inauthenticity. There's a goodness at the heart of the madness. And when we allow ourselves to own our shigaon and to own the fact that very often we feel like we're under the table, and we can still sit at the table even when I feel that I'm under the table. That's how we become the turkey prince. That's how we validate our own space of the post-traumatic fall, and we bring it back into the pre-traumatic Torah, and we become the turkey, which is what happens when a person falls under the table, and the turkey sits at the table. It's much higher than the prince sitting at the table. The rest of the family wanted the prince to become a prince again. The Chacham understood, no, 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 you're not going to get a prince back. You're going to get a turkey prince. And the secret of a turkey prince is that it's authenticity and inauthenticity at once. The secret of the lishma that's betoich leloy lishma. And we're going to see the words of Rebbe Nachman. Pam achas, once upon a time, nafal ben melech echad lishigaon. There was a prince, the son of a king, who fell into madness. Shigaon, meshuga, driven crazy by the noise, driven crazy by the outside of it all, driven crazy by the externality of it all. And again, Pam Achas, Ben Melech Echad, it's all anonymous because it's each and every one of us. Shehu Tarnagol Hodu Hanikra Hendik. This is a turkey that's referred to as a Hindik. The Hodu is Gematria 21. It's the secret of the Shem Eke, the name of Tshuva, Ana Zamin Lemeheve. I am going to be. This is the secret of the turkey, a slow and steady progress of coming to be, coming to learn who I am. First and foremost, learning slowly but surely to sit back at the table again. The Gematria of 21. Hanikra Hindik. Hanikra Hindik. Hindik, just for a remez, is nahi dak. It's the netzachot and the yesod, the lower parts of ourselves, but in the most delicate part of it, in the darkest kind of what it means to be a person. V'tzarichu leishev arum tachas hashulchan. And this turkey prince, this prince who fell into the shigaon of thinking that he was a turkey, felt that he needed to sit underneath the table. There was an inner compulsion, v'tzarich, there was a certain need to sit naked underneath the table, without clothing, himself, without any appearances, underneath the table. Uligwar chatichos lechem v'atzamos kamo hindik, and to peck at crumbs of bread and bones that were thrown under the table like a turkey. V'chol harofim no ashu mela azor lo ularafoso mizeh. And all of the doctors lost hope in their ability to help him and heal him from this. Because the true secret of the Chacham is that the Chacham also knows that he's a turkey. All of the other Rofim, they didn't have hope here because they lived in a realm of thinking that there's such a thing as Yesh. And when it came to Yesh, they had to let go. They couldn't help this person. But only the Rofa who knows the true secret of Ein Shem Yesh B'Olam Klam is able to go down and teach the turkey how to be a prince. All of the doctors who were sent to try and heal, to help and heal in accordance with their perspective of helping and healing, this turkey, they gave up. V'haya melech b'tsar gadol mizeh. And the king was in an immense amount of pain. Ad sheba chacham echad. Until a chacham came along, the chacham echad, which is the secret of the wise one who understands the secret of echad, who understands the unity of at the table and underneath the table, of yichud ilah and yichud tata, of my best self and my lowest self, of my ideal self and my real self, and how both of them are ultimately unified in the light of chachma. Ad sheba chacham echad. A wise one came and said, Va'amar, and he spoke softly. He spoke softly. He spoke softly and he said, Ani mekabel al atzmi l'refoso. I take it upon myself to heal this turkey prince. Not to help, but to heal the turkey prince. Ani mekabel al atzmi. I take it upon myself. There's a responsibility taken. And when there's a responsibility taken, there's no fear of giving up hope, because the responsibility that one takes upon themselves is the secret of Ein Shem Yesh B'Olam Klal. How we're going to complete it, we don't know, but we're certainly going to complete it. Ani mekabel al atzmi l'refoso. I take it upon myself, says the Rofa, says the Tzaddik, to heal this turkey prince. V'halach v'hipshit gam kenes atzma arum. And immediately he went and he unclothed himself and he sat underneath the table bare. He sat without his levushim. He descended down into the world of the Talmud. He descended down into the world of the prince who had lost his way. Without the projections externally, he descended down into the innermost point, without levushim, but to the etzem. V'yashav tachas hashulchan etzel ben melech hanal. V'gam kein gare prurim v'atzamos. And he sat underneath the table with this prince who had found himself underneath the table, and he also began to peck at the crumbs and at the bones. He sat with him. There are theories of education that can be uncovered from within each and every word. First and foremost, there's responsibility taking. Ani mekabel al atzmi l'refoso. I take upon myself, and when a person takes upon responsibility, they gain koach. We say mazel tov when a person needs more strength in order to properly handle a new responsibility. Mazel tov. That's what Rav Shlomo Fisher, Zchus Yal Gan said mazel tov means. You say mazel tov whenever there's a new element of responsibility, because responsibility means that I need more koach. It means that I've integrated something, I'm ready to face something, and I need to draw down a new surrounding light. I need to draw down a new makif. This is the secret of the shvua. Mashpiyano so tiyat tzadik ve'al tiyeh rasha. We swear, we force ourselves to swear that we're going to be a tzaddik and not a rasha. A tzaddik, a shvua, a swear is utilizing a strength that comes from beyond us. The willingness to take responsibility for ourselves, for others, is what gives us the strength to carry out that responsibility. Ani mekabel alatzmi l'rafoso. Hareini mekabel alai. Ani mekabel alatzmi. I take it upon myself. Because there's the recognition for the true chacham that everything is coming from echad. And then once he takes upon himself, he empathically joins. He abstracts all of thought principles. He gets rid of all of his thinking, and he joins the person where they're at, maintaining the deep belief that he has the capacity to help this person move out of this stuckness. Why? Because he was in that stuckness also, and he learned how to work with that stuckness as well. And he went underneath the table and he disrobed, and he also bared himself without any of the levushim of the nefesh, but himself. V'yashav tachas hashulchan, and he sat there patiently, not offering insight, not offering an answer, but sitting there quietly. V'yashav tachas hashulchan, underneath the shulchan, Eitzel ben Hamelech, Eitzel, close to, proximate to, but not directly in front of, not like a teacher who needs to push down his message and it has to be face to face in order for it to be heard in the need of the affirmation that the student or the person or the self is listening, but rather proximity is enough. Proximity is enough to be close to the person, is enough to be close to ourselves, is enough underneath the table. And he also began to engage in the same process, gare pirurim va'atzamos. He began to peck at the crumbs and at the bones because pirurim and atzamos, what are the secret of pirurim and atzamos? Pirurim are crumbs. It's the secret of Purim. Purim is the lashon of pirurim. It's the secret of getting shirayim from a tzaddik. The realization that in the littlest bit, it also contains the fullest amount, that every piece that we grasp is enough to celebrate 120 years of this world. And if a person can say, I felt the good thing, I thought a good thought, I did a good deed, that's enough to be mesameach ourselves ad via samashiach. And the tzaddik understands that I also want pirurim. I also want to peck at pirurim. When it talks about the prince himself who was eating the crumbs, it says liglor chatichos. A chaticha is something that's cut off from the whole. It appears to be no longer connected to the whole. But when the tzaddik comes along and he starts eating, and it's referred to now as perurim. What's the difference between chatichos and perurim? Chatichos is the sense of chatach. There's a cutting away of the part from the whole because the part doesn't contain the elements of the whole. Underneath the table is no longer connected to sitting at the table. But what the tzaddik, what the true chacham echad reveals is that no, it's not chatichos, it's not cut off, it's pirurim. Pirurim are separate, but they represent the secret that they contain the whole within itself. And it reveals that at the table, underneath the table, it's all the same because be'emes there is no table. Everything is unified. And the tzaddik is able to see how in the splintered nature of human experience, where a person feels that all they can grab at are small, disconnected, disjointed pieces, which will never lead to satisfaction, the tzaddik transforms that perspective of chatichos, of being cut off from the whole, and reveals that every piece is a fractal. And when I dig down deep into the fractalized part, I actually uncover the whole. This is the depth of Pnimius HaTorah, of transforming chaticho, something that appears to be cut off from the whole, and revealing that it's a pirur, taking a fraction and transforming it into a fractal, revealing how everything is found inherently within each and every piece, and the secret of the holographic unity of all things. That's the perspective that the tzaddik goes in with. And the atzamos, he was pecking at the etzem. He was going to find the essential point of connectivity, not getting stuck on the external differences, but digging down deeper and deeper and deeper until he came to understand the etzem, the place of the atzmos, where there's a shared experience. And there's no shift between the atzmos that the turkey prince was eating and that the tzaddik is eating, because on the level of etzem, it's all the same. And the tzaddik understands that. On chatichos and pirurim, it shifts because the perspective of what grasping a small splintered piece means, that's different by a regular person who finds themselves underneath the table and the tzaddik who descends down to give us the wisdom as to how to come out from under the table. But by the level of atzmos, it's all the same. By us, by the tzaddik, it's all the same. At the table, underneath the table, the tzaddik starts pecking at the pirurim and the atzmos, and he joins the turkey prince. V'sha'alu ben hamelech, and he turns to this turkey. He turns to the prince. Without introduction, without preface, without kind of the hakdamos necessary to get to the point that we want to try and explain, but he dives directly into the depth of the matter. V'sha'alo ben hamelech. The ben hamelech asks him. The ben hamelech asks, Miata. V'sha'alo ben hamelech. I'm sorry. V'sha'alo ben hamelech is not that he asks the son of the king. The son of the king turns to him because he notices that there's somebody else in his territory who's not accosting him, not asking him questions, not interrogating him, not pushing him forward out of his stuckness. And he turns and he notices that his space is being occupied, and he says, V'sha'alu ben hamelech miata, who are you? Who are you? Mata osepo, and what are you doing here? Me and ma. Me and ma. Who and what? Who and what? The two postures that the turkey prince needs to know. That's all we want to know. The reason we find ourselves underneath the table and away from sitting at the table is because these two questions are not being answered properly. Of me, of who is it, and ma, and what is it? Me, where am I orienting my avodas Hashem, and how am I supposed to follow through with that avodas Hashem? Me and ma. And so this is the question that's on the lips of the turkey prince, who finds himself underneath the table suddenly with a space occupied by a new stranger. Miata, who are you? Uma'ata, osapo, and what are you doing here? Mata osapo in Shnas Tafshin Pehe. Ve'eshiv lo, and he answers, the Chacham answers, Uma ata osepo? What are you doing here? What are you doing here? The Chachma over here is as follows. What's the Chachma here? The prince, the Turkey prince who finds himself lost underneath the table, starts with two questions, me and ma, who and what. Because the Turkey prince's perspective is that if I don't know the who of it, if I can't be authentic about it, and I don't know who I'm serving, then the question of how do I serve doesn't make a difference. Because in the eyes of the Turkey prince, to truly be at the table means to be fundamentally authentic. And if I can't be fundamentally authentic, then I might as well sit underneath the table. And I might as well sit like a turkey. And the only way that I'm going to get out from under the table is if I have this deep clarification of me and ma. Who and then what? To understand and then to do from an authentic perspective. But the tzaddik who's acting like the turkey, when he turns back to respond to the questions of the prince, he doesn't respond with umi ata and who are you and what are you doing here? He skips to the second question and he says, Uma ata osepo. What are you doing here? Why is it that the Chacham Echad, the tzaddik, skips over the question of me? Because what the tzaddik is trying to teach the person, the neshama underneath the table, is that you don't have to know in order to do. But rather the secret is na'aseh v'nishma. You can continue to be a turkey. You don't have to know anything. In fact, I don't know anything either. Nobody knows anything. And anyone who pretends to know anything is just pretending. And it's understandable why we're pretending. But in the end of the day, the Chacham Echad is coming down and saying, I also don't know. Nobody knows anything. But you don't have to be stuck on the question of me. You don't have to clarify with certainty who we're serving, how we're serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how I can be truly aware of my deep authenticity. Because if we wait for our authenticity, then we're never going to make it to the table. So he skips over the question of the authenticity of the me, and he focuses strictly on the ma, on the what. What are you doing here? He turns back and he says, what are you doing here? So Amar Lo, the prince answers, Ani Hindik. I'm a turkey. What do you mean what I'm doing here? I'm underneath the table. That's where I belong. Amar Lo, the Chacham says to him, Ani Gam Ken Hindik. I'm also a turkey. I'm also a turkey. The tzaddik identifies. I'm also pretending. I'm also just pretending. I'm also merely pretending. I also know that it's a joke at the table. I also know that it's a farce at the table. I also know that it's lo lishma at the table. I also got frustrated by the inauthenticity of the willingness to acknowledge the fact that we will always be unauthentic and to come to terms with the fact that we don't know. And I've come to the place of also pretending. I'm also a Hindik. I also know what Purim is. That's what I'm doing underneath the table. So we're kind of the same. We've come to terms with realizing that if I can't be authentic, if I can't do it in the real way, then I might as well sit underneath the table and not do anything and act like an animal. And so the tzaddik says, I'm also pretending. Moshe Rabbeinu was also pretending. Moshe Rabbeinu was also kekof b'fnei Shechina. Moshe Rabbeinu was also like an ape in front of the Shechina. Moshe Rabbeinu was also working with imagination. Moshe Rabbeinu was zeichet to what he was zeichet to because he came to terms with recognizing the irreducible nature of the human imagination. And he came to be masig the Shar Hanun, which was the impossibility of being masig the Shar Hanun. And the recognition that I can't do this for real, so I might as well sit underneath the table. But the secret of the tzaddikim is that they know that even though we don't know, nevertheless, this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. To be a hindik for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the ma'asim b'bitachon, to fight with our wooden swords. Ani gam kein hindik. I'm also pretending. V'yashvu shneihem yachad kach ezezman. And both of them sat together in this way for some time, processing, not pushing, slowly but surely, patience for the process in our own lives and the lives of others, in the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's process, patience, sitting together in this way without shift, no posture changes. Ezezman, for an extended amount of time, to sit with it, to sit with that awareness. That the tzaddikim are coming down and telling us that no, we're also underneath the table. We're also a hindik. We're also a nahidak. We're also just trying to figure out to be mezachich, that place of tzimtzum. Ad shena asu ragilim zemze. And what the patience did was it enabled the prince who became a turkey And the tzaddik who's revealing himself to also be a turkey. He's not pretending to be a turkey. Nowhere does it say he's pretending to be a turkey. Ani gamkein hindik. I'm also a turkey. I'm also a turkey. It's not a lie. The tzaddik is being megala that they're also a turkey. And after some time in Regilus Zabazeh, Az Ramaz HaChacham Livnei Habayis Lahashich Lem Ketoinas. So there was a remez that the Chacham hints to those who are sitting at the table, to the Bnei Habayis, to throw some clothes underneath. Meaning the tzaddik is a Chacham and a Hindik at once. And the Hindik feels that he can't be a Chacham at the same time as being a Hindik. So when the Chacham is trying to draw down wisdom from above and slowly but surely allow the neshama that comes to be aware of the fact that there's an inauthenticity here, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but ultimately there's a yearning at the heart of all spiritual experience that makes us want more and more of the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu because we don't know anything, and all we need is HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give us a little bit more insight. And so the Chacham is meramez because Dai l'chakima b'remiza. It's enough for the Chacham to hint. And he tells them to throw down the katonas, clothing, a lavush, something to cover this neshama, something to allow this neshama to shine forth. The katonas is a kli. It's the kli, it's the big day kahuna. A kli, a lavush, is not something that hides. A lavush is always something that conceals for the sake of revealing. Halbasha in garment is a process of layering an externalized level over an interior level so that the intensity of the interior level can be revealed in a minimized way through the garment of the external level, like nesting dolls. That each external level represents that it holds a more interior level to it. And this is ad ein sof, it's an infinite process. So what he's asking is for a katonas, he's asking for levushim, he's asking for a garment, throw me something, throw me some sensibilities that I can draw down into this chaotic soul's life to show them that the recognition that we're a turkey and that we're pretending, it's okay, but you could be malbish it, you could be malbish your dimyon. And you can come to realize that you could be a ben adam who serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who lives with a sense of certainty and strength, even though we know that we're not certain and that we have no strength. Amar hachacham hahindik leben hamelech. So now Rabbeinu reminds us, we thought the Chacham said he was a Hindik. No, now it's HaChacham HaHindik, the wise turkey. There's two parts to each and every person. There's the part that's connected above, and there's the part that's connected below. There's the Seichel, and there's the Dimyon. The Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. Both need to be utilized in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Chacham is a Hindik, and he's only a Chacham because he realizes that he's still a Hindik. He realizes that no matter what I've reached on the level of Avodas Hashem, it's still only as if I've become. Ki'ilu. Ki'ilu lo natzarti. It's as if, it's all as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because every ceiling is just the floor of the next level. And therefore, no matter what chachma I've received, I'm also still a hindik. And that's why he can teach the hindik underneath the table that no, you can be a hindik and a chacham at the same time. And once this chacham receives the clothes, he says to the prince, Ata choyshev shehindik eino yochel leilechem ketainas. Yecholim lios belevush ketainas v'afal piken yeh hindik. He says, you think that a turkey can't walk around with clothing? You can walk around with clothing. You can have a lavush and you can still be a hindik. Your radical search for the origin, your radical search for authenticity, your radical questioning, and the perpetual assault on the borders of the recognition that we never grasp anything, and the Purim Dikatayra of it all, that can express itself in normal reality. You can have a lavush to that, and you don't have to stop being a hindik. You don't have to stop utilizing your imagination. You don't have to stop searching for more. Understandably, you want to go underneath the table. But just because you understand the secret of the power that emerges from underneath the table doesn't mean you can't sit at the table. Because by the table, they're tzaddikim. Underneath the table, they're the balei tshuva. But who says that a bal tshuva can't act like a tzaddik to reveal the secret of a tzaddik bal tshuva? To reveal the secret of what Mashiach Tzidkenu comes to teach, which is how the tzaddikim can be choizer b'tshuva. You could be a chacham and a hindik at the same time. You could be authentic and inauthentic at the same time. Lishma and loy lishma at the same time. Light and dark at the same time. Ani v'ayin at the same time. Who says that you can't walk around with lavush? You can walk around the lavush and still be a hindik. Ki b'makom echad ra'isi hindikim levushim ketoinas. Because I once upon a time saw in a place also turkeys that were walking around in clothing. So the tzaddik is abstracting here. This is such an important nakuda. We cannot base our strength upon our own minds. We cannot base the import of the eitzah that we might offer to others based on our own strength, but we can place it at the feet of the tzaddikim. The tzaddik is able to say you can be a turkey and still wear clothes like a human being, not because he thinks that's true, but because he saw it. Because he saw it in the Frierdiker Doros, he saw it by the tzaddikim. This was David Malka Mashiach. This was Moshe Rabbeinu. This was Avram Yitzchak and Yaakov. Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah. This was Adam Harishon, Adam Melashon Medame. He saw this. This is the reality of a human being, the Nefesh HaBahamis and the Nefesh HaLukus. The utilization of the dimyon to be mezachech, to be oile from the heart and the emotionality of it all up to the seichel where things can be refined rather than being drawn down to the physicality of it all. I saw this. I have the receipts. The tzaddikim say this. Don't trust me. Trust the tzaddikim. And so he says, I saw once upon a time that a turkey can wear clothing and it's still fine. The love shushnei makatainas, and they put on their shirt. And after the shirt came down, the pants came down. Because again, slowly but surely integrating that turkey consciousness of that instability, that rumbling, that mumbling at the heart that realizes that something is broken and needs to be fixed. But rather than getting stuck in the brokenness of it, we yearn towards a fixing that is emergent from within the broken shards itself. That unease, that sabrachenkeit, that marashchera hativis amushrosh bo meneura, of that melancholic spirit that's rooted within the self from its childhood, which is the kli ra'ui for being masig pnimius haTorah. We have to be malbish that. The tzaddikim teach us how to be malbish that. And first they bring it down by covering the heart. The shirt covers the heart. First, we have to cover over the emotions. We have to learn how to engarb the emotions, deal with how the person is feeling, deal with how we're feeling, and learn to harness it and direct it in the right way. And only then can we bring down the pants, which is the lower part, not the chagas, not the chesed gur and the tferes, but the nahi, the netzachot and the yesod, the legs, the more habituated elements. First, we start with helping a person perceive of a better way of living. Then we can help them change the actions or the ways that they're functioning. And so after the shirt comes the pants. And the Chacham is slowly but surely integrating the Hindik into the secret reality that you can still be pretending, you can still be imagining, you can still feel that you're inauthentic and that you don't deserve to be sitting at the table, or the table is not a place that you want to sit. And you can still sit there with the potency and the imagination and the freedom and the joy and the individualism that comes out to be Megala, the particular shade and color of our neshama, which is what reveals the nachas ruach, the pleasure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has from us in our smallness and our brokenness and our hearts and our minds and our bodies themselves, and the fact that we find ourselves underneath the table. This is the secret of being a ben adam. This is the secret of hoda'ah. It's the secret of hoidu, of ana zamin lemehave. So he brings the pants. You think that with pants you can't be a turkey? No, adarabba. I've seen it. Until the turkey prince continued to be a turkey but get dressed. V'chein imshar habegadim, over and over. The repetition that is inherent within education, but with the urgency that allows it to move forward with intensity. Repetition breeds boredom because it's doing the same thing over and over, the same process over and over. But when a person is capable of drawing the urgency into the repetition, because it's renewed each and every day, so then the Chacham and we can do the same process to ourselves, slowly but surely, utilizing the same gimmicks of the Yetzer HaTov, the same strengths that the tzaddikim feed to us, the mantras, the emunah, the secret passageways that we create from our minds to our heart that remind us that we're okay no matter what. It enables us to continue the process. V'chein imshar habegadim. V'acher kach ramez v'hishlichu lahem. And afterwards, once the Hindik was dressed, so the Chacham hints, and they threw him human food underneath the table. Here, Rebbe Nachman stops. He doesn't hint to Bnei Abayis. Nobody else exists anymore. Around the table stops existing because they're the ones who are sitting at the table are just the ones who haven't yet understood the need to go underneath the table in order how to return back to sit at the table properly. They're not even part of the story here. The tzaddik doesn't show up to save the day. The tzaddik shows up because the prince sitting under the table is one who's right to come to understand the secret of being a human being, that you could be a hindik and be a chacham at the same time. So now the others don't even exist. It's only between us and ourselves that we find ourselves underneath the table. And he hints and they throw human food. Food is a different thing now. The levushim are the things that cover over the self. Food is something that goes interior. It moves downwards, it's digested, and it transforms itself into a more internalized aspect of the self. And so there are two things that we slowly but surely have to start doing with ourselves and with others. We have to slowly but surely tell ourselves that the externality that we create for ourselves, the levushim, the garments of functionality that we take on, even though the heart is still not settled in its place, we first start with the levushim. And then slowly but surely, we can begin with the pnimium. We can begin with those internalized feelings. A person can also feel things that they don't actually feel, which is what the Tanya is all about. How to spark an emotional experience in spite of the fact that that emotion is not real, by way of sparking it and pretending it becomes something real, and it has the power to awaken all that needs to be awoken. It's the secret of dimyon. That's what the whole book of Tanya, the Safran Shel Beinanim, is about. The ability to pretend and to awaken the burning desire of the heart, and then suddenly realize that the pretending itself is the real thing itself, the secret of ki'ilu, the secret of sitting underneath the table. And so after we learn to develop the garments of revelation, then it becomes more integrating the ability to feel certain things, even though you're not feeling them also. You can also feel good. And they throw him human food. You think that if somebody eats something good, is men shvein kein hindik nicht? It means that a person can't be a turkey anymore? Mein kann essen und wach sein a hindik. A person can eat human food and remain a hindik. It's Yiddish in the Sefer. I don't know the exact Hebrew words. Is mein shven kein hindik nicht? The person thinks that if you eat human food, you can't be a turkey? Man kann essen und wach zach a hindik. You can eat human food and still be hindik. You can feel things that you don't feel. Those inner processes, not only the external levushim, but the inner processes. A person can trick their mind into feeling something, to create an inauthentic awakening that becomes the passageway to reveal the authenticity that rests at the heart of inauthenticity, the lishma that rests at the heart of the lo lishma, mitoch shelo lishma, at the tochius of it all. You can awaken those things. And after he started to eat, va'acher kach amar lo, ata choshev shehindik muchrach lios dafka tachas hashulchan? You think that a hindik is limited to being underneath the shulchan? You think that your freedom and expression of spirit, you think that the point of your individuality and your creativity and your schoik and the sha'ashum that you bring up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you think that's dependent on a particular place? It's not dependent on a particular place. There has to be a displacement in order to awaken to the fact that the first place that we found ourselves in was not the place we wanted to be in, because sitting at the table externally and not acknowledging the pretending nature of it all and the dimyon at the heart of it all and the amunah at the heart of it all. So it feels uncomfortable, and a person has to descend down to the worlds of separation, to tachas hashulchan. But once a person tastes the light that exists tachas hashulchan, and now it's time to ascend back up, so that's a light that can be revealed anywhere. I can experience the same potency of the Baal Tshuva even in the acts of the tzaddik. Because when the tzaddik walks out of his room and his tefillin shel rosh are slightly off, that's also the biggest yerida in the world. A person does not have to fall far in order to experience falling underneath the table. In fact, as we've said so often, Chazal have a very liberal opportunity to reveal that all it takes is for me to feel that something goes other than my way. If I'm mevatel my ratzon to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then why should it be that anything goes against my desire in this world? And that's enough to recognize one as a Bal Yisurin, as the Heilige Kamarna points out. So it doesn't have to be falling underneath the table all the time. So he's saying, you think you had to sit underneath the table, fine. The worlds of Biyah, the worlds of separation, I understand that you had to be there in the first place. But you don't have to only be there. You're not limited to that place. You can express the potency of Bina anywhere. You can still be a turkey and sit at the table. How do I know? Because that's what I've been doing the whole time, says the tzaddik. And that's how it went. Ad sharipa oso lagamre, until he brought health back to the individual. He brought health back to the prince. The health of the prince. The health of the prince is not breaking the madness of the prince. It's giving the madness a place to express itself, drawing the madness and the imagination and the displacement and the wondering of it all and the expansion of it all and drawing it into the vessels of functionality, of the levushim and the food that we eat, in order so that we come to understand that even though I'm a Hindik, it's not just that I also get to sit at the table. I'm the one who rightfully sits at the table. Because when a person comes to terms with the fact that we're all Hindikim and we're all turkeys, and this is what the tzaddik is teaching, that it's all ki'ilu, that it's all just as if, we're all just pretending. And Mamela, you could pretend and sit at the table. That's where the true refuah comes from. The original rofim, if we look at the language, v'chol harofim no ashu me la'azor lo u'lerafosam mizeh. The other doctors wanted to help him and heal him, and they weren't able to. But then the Chacham comes along and he says, Ani mekabel alatzmi l'refoso. He doesn't say anything about la'azor. La'azor, to help, implies that I'm in a different position, that I operate in a different position. I operate in a place of health, and you operate in a place of sickness, and I am, from my position of health, am going to draw you out of your sickness and help you. That's why the other Rofim fail, because they don't acknowledge that they're also a turkey, and they never learned how to help themselves from being a turkey, because they've never acknowledged that they're a turkey. It's only in the acknowledgement of the perpetual turkeyness of the human being, in the hodu of it all, which is the bina, which is the dimyon, which is the anna zamin lemeheve, I am prepared to be. I am ready to expand the boundaries of myself in accordance with each and every situation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends my way. Like David HaMelech, who made himself meshuga mamish, he danced like a meshugana for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The secret of the shigayon de kedusha, the shigayon of Purim. And so the tzaddik doesn't try and help change the individual, because that's not needed. There are behaviors that need to be let go of. There are thinking patterns that need to be undone. But the tzaddik is being mezachich, is revealing what is already there. And that's the secret of the chacham hahindik, of being a wise turkey at the same time. I'm not trying to help. I'm not trying to change. It's the attempt to heal. Healing is the outlook that we have, to look at it differently. To enable ourselves to look at our conditions differently, to check in to see what condition our condition is in, to see it in a different light. That's where the refuah comes from. That's where the refuah of this chacham comes from the ability to see differently. The secret of dai l'chakima b'remiza. And therefore, that's why he was successful. There was no attempt to help. It was only to be merape, to draw down the Shar Hanun. The Arizal says that a choyle is Gematria 49, because they're mechusar the Shar Hanun, which means that the refuah comes from revealing the Shar Hanun, which is the secret of imagination and the ability to be a turkey as well. To be a turkey as well. And this is the aspect of Masha Amru Razal ala Pasuk Hanamar B'Shlomo. V'yechache mikol Adam, he was wiser than all men. Afilu min hashoitim, he was even wiser than those who had lost their minds. V'hamnim shal muvan limavinim. That Shlomo Melech had a wisdom, but he had a wisdom that was even greater than the wisdom of those who had no wisdom. He was wiser than the mad ones, because Shlomo HaMelech Chachma generally is sitting at the table. And the Shigaon de Kedusha, and the not knowing and the darkness of it all, and the schoik of it all is underneath the table. That's the shaitim. That's the Milei de Shtusa. But Shlomo HaMelech, the secret of the Ben David, secret of Mashiach Tzidkenu, the Bar Chana de Malka, the jester of the king, is the one who goes from the table, underneath the table, and then from underneath the table back to the table while maintaining the levushim that were received underneath the table. The secret of wisdom that descends down into folly, that draws folly back into wisdom itself. That authenticity that falls into inauthenticity, and that inauthenticity that gives birth to a deeper sense of authenticity. You need bina for this, because this whole sugya is a sugya in bina, the sugya of dimyon, the sugya of mevin davar mitoch davar. Chachma just sits at the table. It operates in the world of Atzilus. It wants everything to be the right way. And if it sees something that's fallen down into the worlds of separation, it wants to help it and heal it. But the Chacham who descends down into the worlds of Bri Yitzira and Asiya, who reveals and is Mezachich that no, the light of Elokus is here also, and you can be in this place and reveal the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's Mezachich, the Biyah, to go all the way back up to the world of Atzilus, to be Megal, the Darg of Adam Kadmon. And that's Dafka through Bina. Amar HaKosev Yecholim Lomar, somebody who wrote this in Siach Sarfei Kodesh says, Sha'adam reitzig l'skariv l'avodas Hashem alo yuhindikum lubish b'chomrius. V'derech zeh yochelim l'ma'at et atzmo l'avodas Hashem ad shenechnasim l'gamrei. V'chein be'eskarvus anashim al derech zeh v'day l'meivin. And the one who brought this down writes that this works for the self and this works for others as well. V'day l'meivin, and it's enough for one who understands. The ma'at, slow and steady. When the Arizal writes that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the halal, and it went from being at the table to having a void that's underneath the table, HaKadosh Baruch Hu re-enters the infinite light, the ray of light, the Kav Orein Sof, which is the shirish of the Das HaElyon Sheb Elyon, the Keser of all the Ksarim, the shirish HaElyon Sheyesh, in terms of our Hasaga, and it descends back down into the Halal. The language of the Arizal is that it descends la'at la'at. It goes down slowly but surely, slowly but surely, slowly but surely, slowly but surely. La'at is the gematria of 49. It's the secret of being a choyle, and the secret of slowly but surely coming to that place of the Shar Hanun. And then when the Arizal talks about the birur of the broken vessels that fell down into this world, all of the reasons and the traumas that cause us to find ourselves underneath the table in the first place, that birur, that rectification takes place ma'at ma'at, little by little. We have to perpetually have this lamed mem in front of our eyes, the lamed of la'at la'at and the mem of ma'at ma'at. Slowly but surely, little by little. That's the process of coming to terms to the degree that we can actually accept ourselves as the people that we are and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not only with our Yetzer HaTov and the best parts of ourselves, which we feel are sitting at the table, but also with our Yetzer Hara, our dimyon, our wanderings, our struggle of being human, which is what makes us higher than the malachim, which is what gives us accessibility to the possibility of gratitude, of saying thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of recognizing the grace of HaKadosh Baruch Hu at every single moment in our lives that gives us the ability to continue the process of learning the secret of being a chacham hahindik, chacham hahindik, to go from being a chacham to a hindik to being a chacham hahindik. And in that way, we uncover the chachma of emuna, we uncover the chachma and the light of tchias hamesim that is inherent within each and every one of us. And we learn how to sit at the table again. We learn how to believe in our pretending. We learn how to find emuna in our ki'ilu. We learn how to fight with our wooden sword. We learn how to live a world of being mezachich the dimyon, of being megala more and more emuna. And be'ezras Hashem, we should be zoicha to vias goyel tzedek b'mhira b'yameinu baracham imrabim.